so excited to kick off this season with a special episode where we sit down with 8 amazing authors just talking about their input into the strategic lessons from mentors on empowering our youth. You don't want to miss this awesome episode. All right, we're going to keep this thing rolling, and I am super excited because now we get to talk to the mind behind the mission of the Path2Redemption Anthology. And we have sat down with Mr. Lester Young before, but this time it's better. It's better because I've gotten to work with him longer. I've gotten to really learn how he thinks and how he is so intentional, not only about seeing the lives of the youth change and seeing them become successful, but also seeing the lives of everybody who is in his circle succeed. And so he gave us an amazing opportunity to be a part of this Path2Redemption Anthology, where we share strategic lessons from mentors on how to empower our youth. So, Mr. Lester Young, can you tell me what made you come up with such an amazing idea?
Well, I mean, like you just mentioned, I believe in collective leadership. And collective leadership meaning that when one boat rises, everyone should rise. And I think that the work that we're doing at the Department of Juvenile Justice is so important. And it's giving each of us a blueprint on how to build something that will continue to make impact in the lives of so many people. So I always challenge all of us on the team to think beyond South Carolina, Columbia, South Carolina. And that's what the collective leadership is about. Let's create this blueprint so that we can actually take this model that we're building and place it anywhere and we can see it grow and make impact. So that's the whole premise behind the Path2Redemption Anthology, is to be able to take that collective leadership idea and now place you as the expert in the work, right? Most people say that, most people go to this work, but they don't have the experience that you and I have. And it's really let each of the persons on our team know that you're an expert because you've been doing this work. Not only do you have a lived experience, but you're now seeing the fruits or the seed that you're planting, you're seeing it and you're making impact and you're getting the results of the work that you do. So that's really the whole plan or the objective behind Path2Redemption Anthology, is to empower each and every individual on our team and to also share to the community what we're really doing.
Collective leadership. Yeah. I like that word. You know, my word of the year is collaboration. So when you're talking about collective leadership, how do you create that, though? There are so many people that call themselves leaders and they want to lead, but they don't know how to lead effectively. And one thing I love about our team of credible messengers, we all have different unique personalities, and we all lead well in our own right. However, we wouldn't be who we are if it weren't for you. So how did you develop the skills and the tools that you use to help us become the effective leaders that we are becoming?
I would say it's 2 tools that have allowed me as a leader to select and engage people. One is the DISC assessment. Being that I'm certified DISC assessment, I'm able to understand by communicating, spending time with the individual, I can basically determine what that person's personality is. And for me as a leader, understanding my own areas of weakness, areas that needs develop, but don't have the time to develop it in this, but to accelerate, is finding people that I communicate with consistently to see what strength they have that can help me in the area where I need some assistance on, right? So by me, the team that we have, it's been intentional in creating that type of leadership. These individuals, each one of you on our team have a certain skill set. And some of you don't realize that I intentionally pursued you or selected you because you had a skill set, right? That will allow us to go forward. And the next one is called the SWOT analysis. Most people do SWOT analysis in a business, like creating a business plan. But for me, I do a SWOT analysis on the entire team. So before you all went in, I saw your names, and then I started meeting with you. I was able to put you strength, weaknesses, opportunity, and then what I call the threat or the trigger, right? So who has a strength to be the face of Path2Redemption when I'm not present? Who has the ability, the connectivity who has that training skill set, who has this ability to manage it, who can be behind the scenes and run this program in an effective way. So those are the two tools that I use in my collective leadership, is the DISC assessment, helping me assess the person's personality, 2, SWOT analysis, understanding what each person on our team brings.
Right.
And then we go now, like we're hiring more people. So in this, intentional again, finding individuals that make up the area where we need assistance on, making sure that that person comes in with that particular strength that will allow our business or our program to be impactful. So I think those are the two things that I would say when you're talking about collective leadership.
Awesome. So one thing I loved about how you developed this anthology was not only your chapter, and we're going to talk about that, but how you had an introduction before each and every one of our chapters, and you talked about us, our character. Why did you think that was important?
One, for you all to know that as the leader, that I pay attention to you, like and do an introduction, because most of you that are in the anthology may not be known in certain spaces, right? So we're talking about how do I introduce this team to say I trust these people, I trust their skill set, I trust their leadership. Let me give you my perception of these individuals before you read their chapter of the book. So as you know, I was able to explain basically each of you based upon those 2 principles I talk about. I mean, those 2 assessments, the DISC assessment, the SWOT analysis, and then the interaction. Like one of the things we do when we go out for lunch, I make it intentional to go out to lunch with all of you, so that again, as I said, when you eat with someone, you get to understand their personality as well. So when we set a table and we're eating, we all are just having fun, but me as a leader and as a student of people, I pay attention to how you eat, how you move, what you're saying in the midst. And that allowed me now to be able to get a deeper insight into who you are. So in that introduction, it was really about me giving the reader an understanding of who you are and why I trust you to choose to be upon this body of work that we're working on.
So tell me
I
about.
gave you all my tips, man.
That's right. That we'll get all the juice on Law and No Order Special Survivors Unit. So you gotta stay tuned in, okay? So tell me about your chapter.
My chapter is really just speaking about, we know the concept credible messenger, having people who have a greater impact on you. And my chapter is really speaking about, before I even knew the term credible messenger, my homeboys inside of prison when I was serving life in prison was my credible messengers. Guys that I looked up to prior to incarceration were drug dealers, and these same individuals were inside of this prison system, but they were in there like 3 to 4 years prior to me getting there, and they done went through that transformation. So when I got into the prison, I'm like, bro, let's continue this hustle. And one of my big homies, he was like, nah, bro, I done changed my life. And then he started like giving me books. There was this book place called the Bookbinder or something like that inside of the prisons where he worked, and he got all of the books. So he started reading, and then he made it a point to make sure that I start reading, and that began to put me on my path to redemption. So now what I share is how that individual gave me some insight, and I want to pay it forward through my chapter. How people with lived experience sometimes are excluded from the table or the conversation because they say, well, you have a felony conviction. What could you tell me, or what could you tell the youth? I would say that I'm the result of not the Department of Correction. I'm the result of my homeboys standing up as credible messengers to give me the tools, give me the game on how to be successful, how to turn my life around. And that's what we're doing in my chapter. I share in my chapter how that individual helped me, and I'm doing it right now inside of the juvenile systems across the country and wherever I travel.
Amazing. So I want you to know I'm about to catch up with you, because I see you 3-time, 4-time, how many time author. So tell me about your other books, and do they lead up to what's happening here in the anthology?
It's very similar. The 5 Stages of Incarceration is my personal letter to men and women who are currently in prison. It's a personal letter. As you know, when you're in prison, we use this term kite, like, hey, I'm gonna send you a kite when I leave. 5 Stages of Incarceration is a personal raw letter of how I script myself down and rediscover myself inside of a prison. Like I needed to do that, put to place me where I'm at today.
Awesome.
5 stages of growth is about healing. Because, and I want to share this, and I think it's imperative that we understand this in your audience, right?
Yes.
Because when we talk about healing, as a black man, we don't talk about it or put a lot of emphasis on why it's so important for black men to heal. Not just from their incarceration experience, but just from their trauma as individuals growing up in poverty, dysfunctional households, etc. So I mentioned how in order for me my growth, I had to heal from my past pain.
Right.
Pain is something we all carry. And if we don't heal as black men, we're not going to be able to create the wholesome structure as a family and as a community and a society. So I believe that this is so important, the 5 stages of growth, how I speak about finding my voice through finding healing. Like we sometimes trying to figure out what we should do, where's our voice? Your voice is in your healing. Once you heal from your past pain, you now find your voice, and by finding your voice, you go to the 3rd stage. Now God gives you the gift. God gives you the purpose, gives you the vision. A lot of us are doing a lot of work in the community saying that this is my purpose, but your purpose, did you experience your pain? Some people ask the question, how do I find my purpose? I say you find your purpose in your pain. And you find your gift by you healing, because once you heal, now you have an ability to now communicate to someone else to help them discover their true selves.
Right. Awesome. Amazing. So you are extremely talented, multi-talented, but you have the same level, if not more, of humility. So you have spoken on many stages as a keynote speaker. And I want to know, what talk was the most impactful for you that you can remember? I know it's been several and they've all been amazing, that you felt really penetrated the audience and really probably got the most results from them understanding
That's a good question. I would say my most impactful speeches were inside of a prison. When people didn't see me or even heard me, but it was the guys in prison that trusted me to share the story of the 5 stages of incarceration with them. Like that, when no one sees me, no one saw me, I was inside of a prison pouring into men and standing before 300 to 400 men inside of a prison chapel by myself. And they gave me what they considered the worst of individuals, and to be able to command that room, to be able to pour into these men for an hour and a half, and everyone walking out of there feeling inspired and motivated, regardless of how much time they were serving. So I think that would be my first. I think the second one would be my recent TED Talk, because the reason why is because I envisioned myself doing a TED Talk. I bought a book on how to give a TED Talk. That's just the power of a vision. So I bought this book and I started studying this book, and I remember putting it on my vision board that I wanted to do a TED Talk. And the reason why, because it's almost like giving you that opportunity to share with a larger audience of people.
Right.
So the power of redemption was the topic of my TED Talk. And that will be one of my second most powerful experience, because it's something I saw over a period of time coming to play, that gave me that opportunity to stand on that stage. And it almost validates you as a speaker in some spaces when you have a TED Talk. You know, it almost says that you are now considered to be, in some spaces, you are that speaker now because you had a TEDx. So it was really about that, going to that Super Bowl of speakers, which was a TEDx talk.
So, yeah, that TED Talk was lit. I was there. It was amazing. It was amazing. Just to let y'all know, it was lit. So,
Appreciate it.
What I want to know is, I've heard you say a lot of people, always ask you, how do I find my purpose? Or they're in the community, they're doing things and they're saying that they are walking in their purpose. I know many people call you all the time. They want to be a part of your circle and be connected with you and what it is that you have going on. However, we know that those who you are connected to are integral into how you elevate or even go backwards. So for that person, for those people who are coming home, who have had maybe a life sentence, who have done a lot of time in prison, and they're coming out to this new world, what tools will you give them to help them navigate, to be able to walk in their purpose, to be effective in everything that they do with the same level of humility, if not more?
All of those, that's a really, I had to sit up on that. That's a really, I don't think we have enough time to really expound upon that.
Okay.
But I would say that for men who are coming home from prison, one of your biggest challenges is going to be yourself, is your pride and your ego. Because most men that I communicate with inside of prison have returned home from prison, they don't believe that prison has impacted them. And I mentioned I give them this quote that I says that you cannot walk in the rain and don't get wet. Like if you've been in prison, in any facet of prison, you have gotten wet.
Right.
But you have to acknowledge that you have been wet by the environment of incarceration, meaning seeing the various things there. Prison traumatize you and re-traumatize you. Some of us go into prison already traumatized from coming up in different communities, and we go into another environment that traumatizes us more. And what we do, we normalize the trauma. We normalize it through intoxication, engaging in frivolous activities in prison to normalize the trauma. And then we walk out of prison and we're thinking that we got it all together, but we don't have it together. So now we find ourselves bleeding. We find ourselves bleeding on other people as a result of our own trauma that we have not addressed.
Right.
So that's the thing I would tell men who are walking out of prison is like, you need to like put yourself in a situation where you can get counseling that will be able to assist you in understanding the different layers of trauma from your childhood to your youth to incarceration, because prison affects you. I cannot express that enough. And so you find brothers, they get out and they enter into relationships. That's the big one.
Yeah.
Right? And they convince the women that they're in relationships with that they're okay. And the women truly comes to believe that this brother's okay because he speaks well. But I always say that you can put lipstick on a pig and it's still a pig, bro. It's still that. So a lot of us dress ourselves up inside of prison, and we come home and we find ourselves bleeding on the people that really was there for us. So that would be my thing is encouraging men. And you can maybe speak from the lens of a woman, but I can only speak from the lens of a man, is that the only way we can become healed and be good people in our communities is that we have to acknowledge that we've been wet by incarceration, and trauma is real. Yes. And if you don't heal, you'll bleed on your children, you'll bleed on your mate, your partner, your community, your jobs, everything, and you'll be in another form of incarceration.
Amen. Amen. Thank you for that. Well, Lester, we're going to wrap this up. And like you said, we do not have enough time to get all that juice out of you, but we're going to do this again.
Can I add something else?
Yes.
I wanted to say this to you and to our team. Like, I really appreciate your leadership.
Thank you.
I appreciate your leadership and creating an opportunity for others. Like when you talk about your collaboration and collective leadership, like this opportunity, you have created space for other individuals on our team that may have not had the media savvy to promote themselves. And going back again to the SWOT analysis, you come with the lens of how to market the team, right? That's your strength. So I just wanted to extend that to you and saying thank you for taking that role as a leader, taking the step to say, how could I create not impact for me, but be a collective, that's leadership collective. Collective leadership is I want to help everyone get the opportunity to be able to promote and build their brand from that. So I want to thank you for that, as well as thank the team for what you're doing as well.
Thank you so much. So y'all know the party ain't gonna stop just yet, right? Because we have the man's man in the building. Okay, the healthy masculinity coach and thought leader, keynote speaker, all the things of being a man's man is in the building. Gary Robinson.
It's nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
You have an amazing chapter in the Path2Redemption Anthology. You are a 2-time, 3-time, 4-time author, 5? Because you ain't bring all the books, did you?
No, it's
still one missing.
It is one missing.
How many books do you have?
So I've got 6. I've got 2 more I've got 2 that need to drop. They're written already.
6-time author.
Yes,
I got some catching up to do. I thought I was doing something.
You are.
Dang. But Six-time author, and I just love the fact that your whole focus is about developing the man, healthy masculinity. Like that is your focus. And when I tell you, especially the way the world is now, that is such an important topic, theme, character. And I just tell me about this. Like, how did you get here?
That's a very long story, Holly.
I know,
How did
you don't
I
got
get
that
here?
much time.
Yeah, that's a very
synopsis.
long story. It started in prison. It started in prison, meeting a young man by the name of Khalid, seeing me being an example of a man. He modeled something for me that I'd never seen before, and based on the way what he modeled, it influenced me to want to change my life. Coming into the system at 20, sentenced to 15 years, I'd never seen a young black male carry themselves respectfully and get respect from their mind. I came from an environment where men got respect from the amount of money that they had or the violence they could inflict. And in that situation, I was able to see something different modeled. And that was the path, that was the start of my journey. I know this young man is Khalid, you guys know him as Lester Young. Yeah. And based on what he's done, everything that I do is modeled after what he introduced me to. He, Malik Ralph-Sanjani, Elder Baker, those guys really influenced my life and helped me see that there's something different in this thing that we call manhood, because I didn't understand it.
For sure, because it's definitely something different in this thing.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, called manhood. I'm not a man, obviously, but I can see the difference. Like, and I've told you that. I've told you and Lester that before. Just being around all different types of men, you guys stand out, you know, and it's not just me that says that, like everywhere you go, like even in the institution, you know, the other people recognize there's this difference between the way you carry yourself, how you walk, the way you speak. And you said something about the value of the mind versus the value of the money. And now the world has changed so much that they actually have something called sapiosexual, where people are actually attracted to intelligence, to the mind. So it was something that was already there, necessary, and now it's more magnified and noticed. Why do you think that the world has now, even though it's so superficial, but for some reason there's a certain voice that's getting louder and louder that's pointing to the importance of the mind?
I think with the advent of the internet, with the accumulation of being able to have information at your fingertips, we have the ability to go back to learning how people dealt with things holistically. And, you know, on the temples of Egypt, the statement was, man, know thyself and to thyself be true. What we interpret that as a lot of times is, man, know thyself, meaning understand your history and your culture, but that's not what that means. Man, know thyself means know thyself, because I can't truly love you without loving me.
Right.
I can't really control my life and make the progressions and the steps that I need to take without knowing my triggers, without knowing my trauma, without knowing the things that influence me. How do I motivate myself? So I think just the opportunity to have the internet open the door, because now we can hear speeches, we can read texts, everything is just here. So knowledge has always been sexual, sexy, so to speak, even in our culture, just having knowledge, the importance of it. So I think a lot of times that's what that is, although there is the flip side of that. A lot of times in prison, what guys do is they attain knowledge and information, and they use that, they weaponize that, they use it wrongly. And I think a lot of times, even in this situation, people on the outside get information and they truly aren't in search of the transformative power of the information, but just to appear a certain way. So, you know.
You talk about weaponizing knowledge. How do you weaponize knowledge?
A lot of times, one of the best examples is a guy presents himself as a certain way. He knows the words to say. He knows to listen to you. And a lot of times when you speak, you're going to tell us what you like, what you don't like, the things you expect, your boundaries. So being that I have this information, I'm going to utilize that against you. I know what you like. I know that I have to present myself in such a way that opens the door. So I'm going to utilize that information, that knowledge, as a way to get the things that I want from you and get into your life. And I may not be the right type of guy. I may not be essentially for you and loving, caring, devoted, compassionate, kind, empathetic. I may be none of those things. All I really want is the treasure that you have. So that's one way that we weaponize knowledge, and women can attest to this all over the world because men have been utilizing these strategies for the longest. And that's one way that we weaponize knowledge.
So when it comes to impacting and influencing our youth with understanding the power of healthy masculinity, how do you begin that process of development, of training with them, with all of the damage and trauma that they have faced?
You can't fix what you won't face. That's the first thing that I teach, and that has been taught to me. You cannot fix what you won't face. No matter how great you become, no matter whether you get out of prison, you acquire money, if you have daddy issues, if you have abandonment issues, if you have lack of love, if you have low self-esteem, if you have misconceptions of what it means to be a man, all of these are what we consider bags. And when a man has baggage, he can't rise to be the man that he needs to be. So the first thing we deal with is that, helping them uncover their baggage. And the hardest part is helping young men come to the truth and just getting them to say, yeah, mama left and I feel some kind of way about that. Yeah, dad told me that he didn't want me. Yeah, that hurts. You know, that's the first step that we go into, just uncovering that, because once we uncover that, something opens there, something happens. When you crack that, now the vulnerability allows him, because he feels safe.
Right.
So if a man feels safe and he feels that he can be vulnerable around you, now what you've created is an opportunity to be a mentor, to be a coach, to be a teacher,
Right.
because they're comfortable. So I think that's the first thing that you have to do. And then based on that, after you do that, then you take them through the identity piece, because what we suffer from is vision, identity, and tools. We all suffer from vision, identity, and tools, men and women, but men are the foundation of society. You know, everything is, I believe that the foundation is important because what a foundation does is it holds the weight of the building. And I believe that a man has to have vision for his life. He has to have vision internally for himself. And then when he gets a wife, he has to have vision for he and her. And then when they bring along a child, you have to have vision for the children as well.
Right.
And then you have to know what your tools are. That deals with understanding your tools, but then your identity. Your identity also plays a part in your tools. So we do tap into that as well, because the core beliefs of your identity are key to who you are. Some of us use certain things every single day and we don't realize it. Hard work, discipline, faith, tenacity, resilience, creativity,
Right.
resourcefulness. All young people utilize these things on a regular basis. So what my job is to help them identify these core things that they already utilize, because a lot of them feel like they're worthless and that they have no good in them. So helping them tap into that and to say, Doc, you've been utilizing these skills for the longest time. So not only have we dealt with the trauma, now what we do is we reinforce belief in yourself,
Right.
reinforce tools that you have already been using, even though you've been using them the wrong way. And then we help them understand that value, that you're priceless.
Awesome. Awesome. Priceless. So let me ask you, what made you agree to be a part of this anthology? And what impact do you think that this anthology is going to have in the juvenile justice system?
What made me want to be a part of it is my homeboy asked me. He was like, "Hey, I need you," and I'm a writer, so of course I love to write. And then on top of that, when he told me who was going to be participating, it was like, yeah, I got a lot going on, but to be a part of you, Siani, him, Ed, Mike, Mello, Nice, to just have a part of that. That was the most important thing because it's history. And I think what we have done hasn't been done here on the level that we are doing it. We have an amazing team. You know, I say that we are the Avengers. We're the real life Avengers.
That's right.
You know, everybody has their strategy. Everybody has their strength in the Avengers. And we have our strengths, and we have a leader that understood this is what you're good at. You're good at connectivity. You're good at behind the scenes. You're good at leadership. And he was able to bring us together. Right. So I think, and just like the franchise, you have the Avengers movie, but then you have the spinoffs.
That's right.
So I see that as, you know, an example of what it is. You've got an opportunity to go to Jamaica.
Yes. And we're gonna be in the castle now. They done upgraded us.
So even with that, I see that as happening for all of us.
Yes.
You know, you're like your marketing ability, your ability to put yourself out there and what you're able to do. And I think that opportunity just opens the door for all of us to be able to do it. And beautifully, you're the first one from the team, from the Avengers team, to be able to do it.
Yeah.
Siani is the second. She's got an event coming. So I think that's what's going to happen.
Yes, it's going to be back to back, back to back. We look forward to your training with us and the new Credible Messenger team that's coming along. So you better keep them trainings coming, because I already sent the email that you're going to be training every month and every quarter on something else. So hopefully you have your material together. Oh, he ain't tell you about that part. Well, I'm going to tell you on camera. So you just be ready.
Yes, ma'am.
And we look forward to it. So we're going to keep this thing rolling, okay? And we have the lady of the hour in the building, all right? Miss Siani Jacobs. She is a restorative justice specialist, and she looking like money with this green blazer on, honey. I love it, the green, the orange.
Thank
we
you.
have it, yes.
And I am loving your orange.
Thank
Like
you.
I said, this morning I almost wore pink, so we were still going to be vibing.
Yes.
But I'm excited. And
Yes, I love pink. And the hair is herring.
Thank you.
Yeah, and the
Thank you.
nails is, I love this. This is a thing, honey.
I mean,
we're going to get to the interview in a second,
The
but
spring
honey.
is almost here.
Yeah.
And so when you
And
talk
who did
about
your
your
lashes?
shoes, thank you so much. And
Yeah.
when you talk about your shoes, it's just like the colors that we bring together here,
Right.
and just kind of getting into the spring is exciting.
Yeah, and this is important for the topic, okay? Because it is important to collaborate and to make sure your outfit is together, because collaboration is key, even when you're getting dressed and you're getting ready for this interview, right?
Absolutely.
This conversation.
It's an
not
entire process.
It's a whole process.
Entire process.
So tell us about your chapter in the Path2Redemption Anthology, and just how you come from a whole different perspective on how to engage and connect with the youth, because you pretty much ran a whole unit. How did you do that?
Thank you. So when I guess was introduced about the opportunity for the anthology, and I thought about the work, like you said, that I did with the Department of Corrections, being a program supervisor and working with youth ages 17 to 24. So it was an awesome opportunity. But, in hindsight, when we talk about our purpose and what God has for us and what He has in stores, in my chapter, talking about the guiding flame, and I considered myself to be that guiding flame.
Wow.
At the age of 13, when everyone had the opportunity to get summer jobs, I wanted to be a camp counselor, which I became, right? I was also a tutor. So I remember, being in New York City, which is where I was born and raised, and walking from school and then going to after school to tutor the students in elementary. And I think at that time I was probably in middle school, right? And so I think about how this comes full circle, and that a lot of times that we have a vision for ourselves, but God has a different purpose. And so when the opportunity came to be a part of this anthology and to do mentorship, and I took the pen to the paper.
That's right.
As you all are second and third time authors, this is my first time.
Right.
And I just really, truly appreciate Lester Young, who I consider to be a mentor, because in our conversations, I think the first conversation we had in the Department of Corrections when he came into my program was, how he kind of talked about him writing books and things. And I was like, I've always wanted to write a book.
Yes.
I still have the sticky note when he was like, sis, all you have to do is just record yourself, and this is what you need to do. And here I am today, a part of the Credible Messenger Path2Redemption Anthology.
Awesome, awesome. I love how you said you had told Lester that you wanted to be an author, and he's like, this is what you have to do. But you probably dropped a seed, and his wheels was just turning, because that's what happens with him. You can't tell him nothing. Did he want you to drop a book in a minute? Like, you gonna be ready? You gonna be ready tomorrow?
You are so right about that, because I think about the team and how you all are already authors. And so I thought when we had the conversation at lunch, it was like, this was an idea.
Yeah.
And then the deadline was here, and it was like, what do I write and what perspective do I come from?
Yes.
But as other team members have shared, as you go through the chapters, it just seamlessly intertwines, and our stories really have impact on, the work that we're actually doing with you.
Right. So life and death is in the power of the tongue.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Absolutely.
For sure. So this is your first book, like you said. This is your first time becoming an author, and I know it was challenging, right? And we were going back and forth, and when you're doing the edits, and now you finally get that final copy, and you see yourself on this cover. How did that feel for you?
Oh my God, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Right.
That's the only thing that I can say. Is it's amazing. Again, I reflect on some of the conversations that me and Lester have had.
Yes.
And I remember him saying that, when you become an author, your book is already in rooms that you have not even been called to be in yet.
Amen.
Right? And so I thought about that, and I said, oh God, this is happening.
Yes.
And it has happened,
Yes.
right? And so now when I carry my books, like this past weekend, they made an announcement at the church, Family Outreach, Outreach Family Fellowship. And people were just really gravitating towards me, congratulating me as an author, wanting to purchase the book. And then this opportunity as a consultant, right?
Okay.
So I have my consultancy, SJ Restorative Consultant.
Okay.
Where we're focusing on the prison to school pipeline, and we're using restorative justice practices to replace the punitive policies that are in schools and to help build community, right?
Okay.
So I've also had principals and, other folks in the school districts that have been, purchasing the book. So it's an awesome opportunity.
Yes.
It's exciting.
Yes.
It's exciting. That's all I can say.
Yes.
I mean, I just kind of feel like a superstar.
Me
And I'm
too.
part of the superstar club.
That's right.
Because I'm surrounded by authors.
We shine over here.
It's like, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Yes, awesome. I'm so glad that you recognize the power of literary expression.
Absolutely.
And that you are looking forward to your next book, right?
Oh,
right?
yeah.
You're going to get that work in.
Yes.
So you said that you are a consultant. So what do you specialize in a certain area? I know you mentioned schools. Is that all you do consulting work for, or do you expand beyond that? Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So at this time, for one, I consider myself an author, right?
Okay.
A speaker as well. But when I'm talking about the consultancy, I was inspired to create the consultancy based on my experience with working with the youth.
Okay.
And so, in my interactions with the youth, I would, before I became a program supervisor, I was a program counselor. And they had this assessment, what is called the biopsychosocial assessment. And that assessment allowed me to build a relationship with the youth, right? And having conversations to assess what was life like growing up, right? Like, what was school? Who did you consider to be a mentor? Who did you consider that inspired you or supported you? Who did you feel supported by is one of the actual questions. And so when I did that assessment, you know, I recognized there was a need to kind of take a step back prior to incarceration, but to focus on where most students spent majority of their life, right? The first 18 years we're in school. And so the impact that, you know, educators have and how they can implement restorative practices. So my consultancy is truly focused on restorative justice.
Got it.
And that restorative justice should be bringing and tying, you know, the community as far as, you know, people who have been harmed. So restorative justice is an alternative approach, you know, to our punitive system with the criminal legal, you know, criminal justice system.
Got it.
And so this is an approach that the community is using as a way to address conflict, right? And in that space, we empower people, specifically those who have been harmed, those who have caused the harm, to come together and to be able to have a discussion on how to make things right.
Awesome.
And so, again, you know, with my experiences in the carceral settings or just in criminal justice altogether, the system does not allow for people to really truly take accountability. And those who have been harmed really want to be able to have a conversation on the why, or why did this happen to my loved one, or, you know, things of that nature. And so at this point, that is, you know, my specific focus. My hopes is to continue to work with corrections in building programming around reentry, as well as constantly implementing that restorative justice piece with staff, with people who are engaging with youth, but we all use restorative justice in some way, shape, or form in our daily day-to-day interaction.
Awesome, awesome. So tell me, how are you like you said, your number one thing now, when I asked you about consultancy, is that you are an author. So kind of like what I'm hearing is that this, the book that you have authored is going to be integral into your consultancy.
Absolutely.
So tell me how integral this book is into that area of consultancy, especially dealing with the youth in our schools.
Absolutely. So one of the main components about the book, as I have been, you know, it's going to sell.
Yeah,
it's going to sell. So you don't have to go out there and you don't have to become a saleswoman or anything. It's going to sell. And one of the most important components that I've realized is that the stories, you know, of folks who have been formerly incarcerated. But I want to show that if the restorative justice model, as well as mentorship with the youth and the work that we're actually doing in the Department of Corrections or in the Department of Juvenile Justice, if we have that type of impact with students who have dealt with trauma, you know, I still consider them to be students because I'm not going to use the term, you know, juvenile delinquent or things of that nature. They're still people, they're still youth. And so if it can be done, we can still use these strategies, these strategic lessons to be able to implement them in the community as well as in the schools. And so when I, you know, this weekend when I was speaking to someone, they're like, oh, you know, I can't wait to read the book. And I said, I can't wait for you to read it either, because there's so many impactful stories of people who have changed their lives, People who have used their stories to help mentor the youth. And that is one of the biggest connections that we have is our stories. Because, you know, you can talk to someone all day long and tell them how to do things, what they should do. But nothing is better than, you know, you've been through that. And I know a lot of times, even in, you know, with us at DJJ. A lot of the youth, they'll be like, so Holly, what was you in jail for? Like, what was, you know, what did, you know, they want to know because they want to be able to use your story to see the light. And that is the guiding flame. To see that guiding flame to say, you know what, Holly did it, so I can do it. You know, like it's not the end of the world because I've been punished or I'm here at the Department of Juvenile Justice. So the book serves as, just an awesome tool for those who are in the community, those who are in corrections, those who are, within the school systems, to really be able to use some of these strategic lessons and implement it in their day-to-day interactions, specifically with the youth.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Holly.
I hate that this has to end, but we will come back and talk more about the consultant piece and some of the work that you're doing. You have a
Absolutely.
speaking engagement coming up,
I
right?
do.
Okay.
So there's a series coming up with Melissa Schillingford, Make Ideas Work. And it's interesting because as of July, I pivoted to starting my consultancy, no longer being in a space of an employee. But having that flexibility to just be able to walk in my purpose.
Amen.
And nothing feels better than when you wake up and you are walking in your purpose.
That's right.
Because it doesn't feel like a job. And so I hope that you all are able to tune in and to really just kind of hear some of the challenges as an new and upcoming entrepreneur.
That's right.
But again, it's when you're walking in your purpose, it doesn't feel new.
That's right.
There are certain processes that you have to actually create. But the restorative justice piece that I love, working with the youth, working with incarcerated people, that's not new.
Yeah.
This is just an addition to the consultancy.
Awesome. The Path to Redemption Anthology episode. So we're going to speak to some amazing authors just about their contributions to this amazing anthology.
Hey.
Mello.
What's going on? What's going on?
Mello? He is a fellow two-time author like myself, and he better catch up because I'm about to read 3 times.
Hey, I'm working on the third one too.
You working on the third
I'm
one?
working on it.
What
So
is gonna be called?
this one is, I don't have a title yet,
Okay.
but the next one is going to be about doing community service, outreach, the importance of it, how it not only benefits the people that you go serve, but yourself as well. And it's going to take a look through biblical perspective, through society's perspective. Man, it's going to be a good one.
Wow. It sounds like it's going to compound off of the work that you've done in this anthology.
It is.
So tell me about your chapter in this anthology.
My chapter in the anthology is called Brother to Brother, which it echoes the title of my first book. But what the idea of Brother to Brother is that a generation like mine who has come and gone through certain things, now we have the opportunity to give back to the next generation.
Right.
And that doesn't always look like giving back financially or giving back resources, even though that's a good way to do it. But sometimes it's giving back experience. So that's what I have made like my life mission, giving back through my experience. Because if I can give some of my experience to a younger person, they may be able to get further than me quicker than I did.
Right.
And that is going to cause progression if we keep doing that.
Okay, awesome. You said giving back experience. I've never heard someone express it in that way. So tell me, which area of your expertise do you normally express or do you normally expound on when it comes to connecting with the youth? Like what area of your experience do you think actually connects with them and why?
Well, for me personally, my passion has been since a young boy was music. Music, poetry, songwriting. I was a musician as a young child, so music has always been something that I could connect with. But what I had to do in life is find out my purpose and how God specifically wanted me to use that.
Wow.
So as I transitioned from being a troubled youth myself into actually finding out what my purpose was, I realized that transition is actually a skill set.
Wow.
So what I've tried to do with the younger people is, okay, let's find out what your thing is. Your thing may not be music like mine, but everybody has a thing.
That's right.
So let's help you find your thing. And when you find that thing, okay, what is God's purpose for you to do with that thing? Once you find that, it's easier to have direction in life.
Wow. So you mentioned music and using music as one of those tools to connect with the youth. Why do you think music is so powerful? Because it's obviously it influences our youth in a major way. But how can they use that music to transmute that violent energy or that negative energy into something positive? Like how do we make that change?
Man, it's funny you asked that. I watched a prominent rapper actually give a college lecture on that topic, the depths of music and what it really does. And he expressed it as music is a learning tool. It's a learning tool. If you think about it, how do we learn the ABCs? Through that song,
Yes.
A, B, C,
Yeah.
D. So it's a learning tool, but the thing of it is, what do we use that tool for? And what is being learned? If you look at mainstream, a lot of the music, it's a lot of negativity placed out there because that makes money.
Right.
So that's what the youth are learning when they listen to that. But how can they use it in a different way? They can actually use music as, number one, an outlet of releasing trauma or different experiences that they've had instead of holding it all in.
Right.
Or they can use their life lessons and put it in music and let that be a lesson to teach those who listen to it. So it's multiple ways that music can be therapeutic. Even just the instrumentation of music. If you, I know you could probably think of a song right now that takes you back to your childhood.
Yes, you're right.
So even music itself is therapeutic. So it's a lot of benefits to the music.
Awesome. So tell me, what made you want to be a part of an anthology? You're already an author, so you have a published book called Brother to Brother, and then your chapter in here is called Brother to Brother, but it's a different genre in a sense from your original book. What made you want to do an anthology, and how was it? How was that experience?
Man, that's a great question, and I have to keep it honest with you.
Okay.
when the conversation of the book first came up, I wasn't sure that I was going to do it.
Okay.
And my thought process was, I have a certain thing that I'm doing or a certain, direction that I'm going in that I want to use to reach the youth. And I'm not sure if that fits in with what everybody else is doing. And I wanted to share and be honest about that because as creators, we go through that a lot.
Okay.
And we think of ourselves as, I don't know if what I'm doing is going to be successful, and it may stop us from taking that leap into doing something. So I prayed about it and I thought about it for a long time, and I spoke to a couple of friends, and I realized that no, this was not an opportunity for me to shy away, but this was an opportunity for me to present what I had and an outlet for it to reach others. So once I sat and thought on it for a little bit, I was like, I have to do it.
Yes.
I have to.
Yes.
Now the experience of it, once I made that decision, man, it was all smooth from there. So anybody, if y'all get nervous before doing something,
Yes.
sometimes all that nervousness is just trying to keep you away from something that's gonna be smooth sailing.
Yes. Yes.
But man, it was an amazing experience. Even as I got to read the other chapters and see what everybody else put in, it's almost like all of our chapters were puzzle pieces that complemented each other.
That's right.
And it was such a great read to read it all together. So I thank God that I was able to be a part of the project.
Amen. People ask me all the time when it comes to being an author, like, what is the hardest part about writing a book or being an author? And I tell them all the time, starting. That's the hardest part. And once you start, it just... All right. So let's keep it going. We about to turn up now because we got Big Unc in the building. Okay, from Chi-Town. We got Chicago, Big Unc in the building. That's what the kids call him. And he is Edward Wilson. He is someone else who has added a tremendous amount of value to our anthology. So, Unc.
What's up?
Tell us about your chapter in the Path to Redemption Anthology and how you felt just being a part of this collaboration.
Well, I'm just going to speak on being a part of it in the beginning. I felt honored to do it. I was a bit nervous in the beginning, but as I got to writing and Lester would stay on me like, yo, I need that from you. I'm like, I've never written before. So, I've written letters, written letters to family,
Yeah.
written poetry before, even wrote a song, but I've never written a book. You know, so that part was like, where do I start?
Right.
You know, where do I go with this part of writing a book? So I prayed about it and I just let go.
You just let go.
I just let
I'm
go.
so glad you did. You did an amazing job.
Thank you.
So you do tremendous work with the youth. Some of the guys like really connect with you, especially one in particular we know that has had tremendous challenges. And for some reason, you were able to connect with him in a way that no one else could. I remember getting calls 10 o'clock at night, 9, 10 o'clock at night, asking if you can come back to the institution because you were the only one that can calm this young man down. And so how do you develop that type of connection with these youth, with these young men, that they are able to trust you when their trust factor has failed them so many times before?
It's a two-part answer to that.
Okay.
And I'm gonna give you one, and then I'm gonna give you the other. Just being myself.
Okay.
Understanding that I had uncles, and when I didn't have anybody to talk to, they've always had their door open for me.
Right.
I recall my Uncle Randy saying, whenever you need to talk, Ed, you don't have to be standing here to talk to me. My door's always open to you. My Uncle Brent would always talk to me. My Uncle Johnny, when I stayed with my grandmother, he would always say, Ed, I see you walking a lot and talking to yourself. What do you be doing? I said, I just be needing somebody to talk to. So he had his door open for me. So, those three in my life help open up a door for me to understand myself. Because as a teenager, I had a lot of questions and I had a lot of things going through my head, So I just basically open up to them. And the second part is not being afraid to say it's gonna be okay.
That's right.
Because at the end of the day, it's gonna be okay.
Right.
We go through rough patches in life sometimes, but we never see the tomorrow part of it.
Right.
We always get stuck in the today and I'm messed up and this, that, and the other. Instead of saying this, you know what? There's a brighter day coming up. Tomorrow ain't gonna be my today.
Right.
So it changes.
So what I'm hearing is that just being able to show up and have that listening ear and just communicating with the young men is what allows them to gain that level of trust, because you're consistent and you're committed to showing up and showing them that you care by just listening, right? I know Nice had said something previous about that the power of listening. So what made you want to be a credible messenger?
I think I was a credible messenger the day I was released from prison. When I saw a kid that was going through something similar to what I was going through, and his mom said, I can't do nothing with him. And his dad don't want to have nothing to do with him. I said, what's going on with the kid? I don't know. Maybe you can talk some sense to him. I was like, I don't even know her. I was just with my brother one day and I didn't even know this lady. And she just threw her son on me. And it was like, the conversation that I had with her son, I end up having that same conversation with about 10 or 15 of his friends. Because as I was talking, they would all come sit on the porch. In Chicago, we got these brownstone buildings. And when you look out on the porch, it's like you got 3 levels. You got the steps going up, then you got places right here, place right here, place right here. And before I knew it, the entire porch was filled up and it was silence. Even the neighbor lady stepped out and she said, we need more men like you doing what you do. Do you have a number? I would like you to come speak at my church.
So tell me, what were you saying to the kids?
I explained to them that being a teenager is hard, but growing up is even harder. Lester spoke about the pain of coming out of the pain, learning something from the pain, being the person who you become after healing from the pain.
Right.
I was just able to just being myself. And I would just talk to them about the everyday formatics of just growing up, just listening to your mom. Even if your dad's not in your life, you know, take some time out to listen to your uncle. Even if you don't have an uncle, find a grandfather.
Right.
If you don't have a grandfather, find a big brother. And if you don't have none of those, come find me. I'll be your uncle.
Awesome.
And I'll talk with you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Ed. Tell me, what tools did you use to heal from the pain?
Prayer, a lot of alone time, like Lester said. I'm big on my alone time. If anybody knows me, they knows I move alone.
Yeah.
Even inside of the place, the juvenile detentions, I move alone. And just be, I'm just myself.
Just yourself.
I don't have big words to explain it.
It's okay.
I'm just Ed.
Just Ed. Okay.
Yes.
So tell me, you said previously, you said that you had never done anything like this before. You had never written a book, so you were kind of a little apprehensive about
Right.
doing that. But once you started, you began to flow. We had, we had to face a few challenges, but you were able to complete it. So when you got this book in your hand, when you saw your face on this cover, and you saw your name in this book, how did you feel? What was your first reaction?
Dad, I made it.
Dad, I made it?
Dad, I made it.
Wow.
You couldn't see it, but I made it
Wow.
because he's no longer with me, and my dad and two of the uncles that I mentioned are gone now.
Wow.
I still got one left, and I made it.
And I say it all the time, when you become an author, you get to live forever.
Yeah.
Because this is your story in here, right? And this book will always be. And then we're going to get another one from you, right?
Oh yeah, most
You
definitely.
ready for the next one?
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. Well, I'm super excited about you coming. I know you was nervous sitting down with me, but next time we're gonna spend some more
flow.
time. It's gonna be a little longer,
Right,
Because you're
right.
gonna be a little more, confident, right? A little more
Right.
bolder.
Yes.
Right? You're gonna be a
Yes.
little more relaxed because you're gonna be a two-time author then.
Right,
You're
right.
gonna be talking junk then, because you be talking junk.
I told John.
You do. So don't be acting like you all quiet now, because you be on 1,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I wake up at 4:00 every morning on 1,000.
On 1,000.
Bella looks at me and be like, "Dude, how did you get out
The
of bed?"
dog tell you to calm
She
down?
looks at sometimes.
Yeah?
Yeah, sometimes. She tells me straight up. I'm like,
Your best friend gonna let you know what it is.
oh yeah,
You
that's
know.
definitely my
That's
best friend. I tell everybody, the kids know about it.
Yeah,
Everybody knows about my dog.
I know.
It's like, man, dude,
that's
your
Bella.
Yeah, that's Bella.
Listen, we got a live one right here. Okay. So I am sitting down with Antonio Landis Thompson.
King Tunes.
So he told me that I was the queen of greatness. So I have to let you know that he is the creator of Born for Greatness, an amazing curriculum that he uses to connect with the youth at the Department of Juvenile Justice. So Antonio did not decide to do the anthology with us this time because he was just booked and busy. So he had no time for us little people because he got a lot going on. And he's going to tell us all about it. But he is working on his first book.
Yeah.
And Antonio, introduce yourself. Tell us what you got going on.
My name is Antonio Landis Thompson, aka King Tunes.
Okay.
We're raised in the beautiful island of the Bahamas.
Ooh.
I'm a life coach and a speaker, and my purpose in life is simply to help people tap into their potential, discover their purpose, and become all what they were designed to be. I believe that there's no one in this world that is a mistake. And I said for the rest of my life, I'm going to help people discover their purpose in life.
And you are definitely doing it. You are definitely doing it. And you're just from a beautiful place.
Yes.
Like how do you come from such a beautiful place and not have that beauty within you?
Yes.
Like I just couldn't imagine that. And I have been to Bahamas, and I'm actually getting ready to go back in a couple of weeks with a good friend of mine. So yeah, when you just said that, I just got ready for my trip. Okay. But So what made you want to become, you said you're a life coach.
Yeah.
You are a professor, right?
Well, I do a lot of speaking and teaching, but a lot of people ask me if I am a professor, but I do a lot of
because
speaking.
you're just so good.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So what made you want to be a life coach?
Well, look, let me just back. I was growing up in the Bahamas under the leadership of Dr. Miles Monroe, and I did some traveling with him. I was in a group back in the day called System 3. But here's what changed my life. He walked into church one day and he asked the question, I never heard this before. He said, what is your purpose in life? And it puzzled me. I couldn't answer the question. Then just like a great communicator he is, he said, what is the reason for your existing and why you're here? I went home. I couldn't ask my mom or my dad because they didn't know. Back in the day, it wasn't like they had social media or the internet for me to go out there and actually find out what my purpose was. And so I went down that road of discovering what my purpose was. And after I discovered my purpose, I said, for the rest of my life, I'm going to help people discover their purpose. And one day my wife asked me, she said, you love to motivate, you love to inspire, you love to reach people, you love to speak. She said, why don't you become a life coach? True story. And I was like, what is a life coach? Not knowing that I was already operating what a life coach is. So I decided to look into it, went and get certified as a life coach. And I said, for the rest of my life, I'm going to pour into people. And that's one of the reasons why I went into the life coach. Because a lot of people out there, they have this desire that they know there's something more in life. Right? They have a desire of, I feel like this is my destination. They just need someone to come along. So all a life coach does is come along somebody and just help them on their journey and help them get to their destination.
So let me ask you this, because obviously there, especially during the pandemic, there were so many life coaches that popped up, right? Or coaches in different areas. Like, so for you and what you do in being a life coach, how do you come alongside and help them? Like, how do you identify which each individual needs to cultivate that gift that's already inside of them?
That's a good question, because I like to talk to people or interview people. We will sit down one-on-one. And what I realize is that you can't work with everybody. And then a lot of people, when they come to work with me, a lot of people think the life coach has the answer.
Yes, they do.
You see, they think we have all of the answers, but what I started to realize, and I let people realize, that the answer is actually inside of you.
Amen.
Now, here's what a good teacher or a good life coach do. They're not afraid to ask you those right questions to unlock the answers that are already in you.
Right.
So we pay a lot of money. We go all of these places, go all of these seminars. We're trying to find out, okay, can I get the answer? But what a life coach does, a life coach is simply just like, we sitting down. Right?
Yes.
You get on the couch, but they used to have the horse, and you go. You just help that person get to one destination to the next by asking the right question. So I used to think that when I started out, hey, I get the answers. So Miss Holly, the queen of greatness, right? If she comes to me, that I have the answers, and I had to realize, no, the answers are already in you, because the minute you were born. You already had that desire in you. You already had your purpose in you. And so what a life coach does is ask you those questions to make you think. Like, you might have an idea that you want to be an artist, but you never thought about it. But what type of artist? So that's a really good question, is asking those right questions. But a lot of people, in life, we go around looking for the answers, but the answers are already inside of us.
Awesome. I truly believe that. I truly, and I tell people all the time, everything you need to be great is already inside of you.
Already.
You just have to be in the right environment when the anointing is conducive to cultivate what you already have.
Yes.
And so I am really passionate about the work that you do as a life coach to adults and for our youth, definitely with that Born to Greatness curriculum, helping them see what is already inside of them as well. And so tell me about this new book that you are coming out with.
This new book true story, I started in personal development many years ago, but a couple years ago, I started writing down quotes. And so I would start my day off with quotes. And as I was writing down these quotes, I was like, what about the information you getting every day? What about your downloads? So I started writing down the downloads. I would write it on a piece of paper, which was not good because I wrote it on a piece of paper, probably lost it, then start all over again. But actually this book is based on principles that I've learned over the years that have really helped me in life. Downloads that I've got when I'm running in the morning or just sitting in my car. Every day I'm getting all these downloads. I said, it will be unfair for me to get all of this information and never share it to the world. Right. And then my wife started to challenge me. She said, honey, you should write a book. And once I said that, once you release that into the universe, people are going to start reminding you. So my wife keep asking me, say, when the book is going to come out. My daughter started asking me, say, Daddy, when the book is going to come out. This week, about 2 people already asked me. One guy even said to me, he said, you always encourage me. He said, you should write a book. I said, guess what? I'm writing a book right now. That's the reason why I didn't return your call. So it's basically a book that is going to be about principles that have helped me over the years. Like one of the principles that I learned in life, that it's very important that you know your purpose in life, because if you don't know your purpose in life, you have no direction in life. So it's just a book of principles that someone could wake up every day and just read it to motivate and inspire. And then I realized that people learn from different ways. There will be some people that will listen to a song. There'll be some people that will listen to a podcast, but there'll be some people who just want to read a book.
Right.
So people learn from different ways. And so, yeah, that's how the book came out. But this year, this is it.
So what's the name of the book going to be?
I'm still playing with the name, but I'm telling you, one of the names that is going to be tied to the book is greatness.
Awesome. Of course.
So greatness is going to be on somewhere on that title. I just didn't know if it's going to be. So I'm still playing with it. But I still playing with the title.
One thing that I love that I heard you say, even though I have not met your wife, but it seems as though she is a powerful force in your life.
Yeah, she don't play around.
She told you to be a life coach because you were already doing and it's so important. And then she told you need to write a book. And then she's like, when is that book gonna be done? And then she got your daughter on board. Yeah, baby girl, like, hey, well, Daddy, when the book gonna be done? It's something about having powerful women in your life, right? Because they see from a different lens. Yeah. And sometimes you're just operating naturally in things and in your gift, and they see something so much greater, right? And a lot of times men can be so stubborn and they don't want to listen. But I'm glad. I'm glad that you know the Holy Spirit is letting you know, like, hey, this is your helpmate, and I have aligned you two, joined you two together for a purpose. Yeah. And I'm so glad that she is that one that reminds you of your greatness.
I would like to say, I learned this from my mentor, Dr. Miles Monroe. Be careful what you tell a woman.
Yes.
Yeah. You give a woman a sperm and she gives you a baby, right? Mm-hmm. So you give a woman an idea.
Mm-hmm. We don't play with it. We don't play with it.
She's gonna take that idea.
Yes, she is.
Incubate that idea because she wants that idea to come forth like a baby.
That's right.
But she's gonna remind you of that idea over and over again, because that's just how she was built. Yeah. So I learned, it's like, if I don't, some things it's like, don't tell my wife this right now, because she's going to remind me. But it also ties in with what you also said too. My wife saw it in me, but I didn't see it in me.
Exactly.
So it's important to be around people who believe the best in you, that will see it in you. Like I was telling my friend, we was talking about this yesterday, when I graduated from high school in the Bahamas, I had no idea of going to college. Because at that time, I didn't have a good experience in college. It was a mindset thing. I didn't do good academically. But I saw this man one day. I was just outside somewhere, and he didn't ask me like, how you doing and what's going on with your job? He said, what college have you decided to go to?
Yeah, get to the point. Yeah.
How come he asking me what college am I decided to go to? And in that moment, he was letting me know, hey, I see greatness in you.
That's right.
I expected you to go to college. Not that college is everybody path to go, but that's how he saw me.
Right.
And when he said that, I was like, wow, that made me start thinking. So sometimes in life, we don't see the gifts and talent in us, but God has it set where the people around us will be able to see that greatness inside of you.
That's right. Amen. Well, Antonio Landis Thompson, it was a pleasure sitting
Yeah.
down talking to you, and you will come back, especially when we get this book ready.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
because you got to come back and tell me about the book, I'm gonna be on you.
Okay,
You know,
okay.
I'ma
Oh,
be on
see,
you
I
about the book.
already give you that idea, and I see
Baby,
it.
So we is going to keep this thing going and moving, and it just gets better and better because we are vibrating on a high now.
That's right,
All
that's
right,
right,
we
that's
is vibrating on a high now. So we have the amazing, nice
Yes, how you
Nicholas Giovanti. Okay, he is a lyrical genius, but he is also a member of our anthology. He has an amazing chapter in here. He's going to tell us about it and tell us about how he connects to our youth through so many different things: music, meditation, just an amazing storyteller in a sense. But he's such an introvert. It's kind of weird, but he's going to tell you about it. So,
How you
Nicholas,
doing?
How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. My chapter in the book, right? So when we was first asked to do this, there's so many thoughts coming to you, like what do I want to say? What message do I want to live forever about how I feel about what we're doing and how I want to reach the kids? And the first thing that came to me is something I think everybody's asked themselves, what would I tell my younger self if I had the opportunity to go back and speak to my younger self? And all these thoughts came to me about what that could be, and then I came to a point where I realized there's nothing I really would want to tell myself. I think I would want to listen to myself more than anything.
Right.
And so I use that approach when we go in and talk to these youth and these at-risk kids that, man, most of the problem is they ain't got nobody listening to them. Right. They're trying to tell you how they feel, their perspective on things, why they're hurting, and we gloss over and look at it from our experience and say, get over it. You're crying over spoiled milk, but really they need to be validated that, you're right to feel how you feel. Maybe what you did was wrong, but the feeling is real. Right. And then once we can acknowledge that your feelings do matter, then we can probably start addressing why it is you keep doing what you're doing to put yourself in this position.
Awesome. So when you said that listening was one of the key tools that you use, that you talk about, that you expound on in your chapter, I just keep thinking about like the meditation sessions that you have with the boys, with the youth, and how some of the guys had never even heard of meditation, and after doing a few of those sessions, and I spoke to them, it's like, what is it like? Because even for me, when I've tried it, it seems like there's just so much noise in my head. It's like I can't calm it down, and when I think about how important listening is, when you get to a point where you can stop hearing all the noise, I mean, where the noise just silence, and what you hear is almost like the directions to get to the next level, but it's silence. Like, how is that? Like, you have to be silent to hear them, but yet silence also like triggers some sense of direction.
It's funny because even with all the noise we have in the world, there's so much noise going in within ourselves. We have so much self-talk going in, whether it's negative, dealing with the trauma of your growing up, words you heard from your parents about you not being able to be nothing, school telling you you're not smart, peers telling you you're not cool enough or you don't fit in. And so we accept these things subconsciously. Verbally we might say, I don't care about what they say, but subconsciously this stuff, after so many years, it just gets embedded in you. And so we start repeating these things. Meditation quiets that noise.
Right.
It helps you to understand which voice should you be listening to and shuts all the chatter out.
Right.
And so it's not even your voice really that you're trying to seek, but it's God's voice. Because once you realize that the thing that's in competition with God's voice is ego. Sometimes we think about ego, we think about somebody being egotistical, being loud, being obnoxious, but ego also comes in a negative form about being depressed or being hard on yourself, being self-deprecating. And so ego is a thing that's needed, but it's not supposed to control or lead how we go about life. And so once we can learn how to tame the ego and lead with humility, love, realize that everything is not all about us, that sometimes, we are wrong, that we need to be held accountable, then we can get out of our way and let God start to work through us.
Oh, that was awesome. I wasn't expecting all that. You dropped some jewels. You dropped some jewels. But and just kind of thinking about your methods of how you connect with the youth and just the change that I have seen in the progression. Because one young man, I did a one-on-one with him yesterday. He was like, let's talk business.
Okay.
And the conversations from our initial one-on-ones, he's always been super intentional about learning. But now he was more specific in the questions he was asking. His vision was more targeted to a certain thing. And I asked him, how did this development happen? And he attributed a lot of that to the meditation. I guess being able to block out the chatter and really hear God's voice to help him understand his purpose.
Yeah, meditation is a thing I think is kind of taboo, especially in our community, especially in the Christian community. We hear the word meditation and we think you're trying to speak against God. Right. If you go deep into the Bible, you see that he's always talking about you should meditate, salah, meditate on this word. And so once we realize that this is a tool God wants us to use, this is what Jesus did when he went to the garden. He went and meditated before he went to the cross. So he was fully aware of what he was taking on, but he realized his feelings didn't get in the way of his purpose. Yeah, I'm about to surfer, but this is for a greater cause. This is what we do every day. Emotionally, we're attacked. Every day is not the same. These kids and these staffs can say some brutal things that can hurt you. They can do some things that make you want to put your hands on them. You know what I'm saying? So we are attacked constantly, but it's the purpose within us that humbles ourselves not to do something that would jeopardize us to not be able to do what God has sent us to do. So I think with meditation, for me, it's a thing that I'm constantly pursuing. It's not something that I've mastered at all, but I understand the purpose of it. I can see the effects of it when I do it. And I think with that youth you're speaking of, he has realized. I remember the first time we did it, he came in, he was like, man, I'm not going to lie, what he was doing, I was like, this is weird. This is stupid. About 2 weeks in, he's like, yo, man, I look forward to these sessions, bro. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's something I would encourage everybody to do, try. It's not nothing you have to do for 30 minutes or an hour, but, you make your own time. And I think the biggest thing about prayer is a lot of times we go talking. God wants us to come listen in prayer sometimes. And so this is what meditation is, listening to God.
Awesome. So one of your newest singles, Vibrating on a High Now. So when I'm thinking about the words Vibrating on a High Now, did you come up with that name from meditating? Like how the meditation clears out to allow you to focus on that voice that's taking you to the next level? Tell me about that.
Yes and no.
Okay.
It's definitely a part of the meditation process, but vibrating on the high just came from learning self, realizing that we are spiritual beings. We are energy beings. We are always emitting energy. Emotions are nothing but energy. This is why when we get angry, we tell people to channel that energy. That it can be used for something good. So when we realize that we're energy, we all have vibrations that we're waving on, some higher than others. We connect with people we like. Why? Because we're on the same energy level.
Right.
So once we understand how vibrations work, we understand how the world works. We understand how God works.
Right.
We're all, light is a vibration, sound is a vibration. Me sitting in this chair is a vibration, but it's a molecular structure that's built. So once we understand how all these things work, we can understand how to manipulate it in our favor. Manipulation is not necessarily a negative word. It's just that when we manipulate, usually we're doing it in a negative way.
Right.
But when we're trying to teach these kids to go on a better path, we're trying to manipulate them in the right direction.
Amen.
So yeah, that's all. That's it. I feel like I'm rambling.
No, you're not. You're not. So, are you still working on your second book?
I am. I'm more working on my music right now.
Okay.
I just finished my first EP this past December in 2023. Okay. I'm working on my upcoming album. We got a couple other artists on our our label, Eloquent Sounds, coming out.
Awesome.
We're working on their EPs, doing shows, trying to get the message out there, promote my book at the shows. You know, y'all need to go get that.
Yeah.
You know.
Because, I just got to say something, because you're such an introvert,
Yeah.
right? He barely wants to talk to anybody. You ask him a question, you're going to get a one-word answer. He not going to elaborate on anything. But, honey, when these books drop, everywhere I turn, they're like, he'll get his money to Nice for my book.
Yeah.
You want a book? I already got one from Nice. Like,
Right.
everybody.
Yeah.
Like, so you know how to sell these books, though.
Well, I
You
know
how to open your mouth.
I know how to sell these books because I learned it from you. I mean, we had a whole year to watch you push Blood Ain't Thicker, and I said, okay, you know, I'm quiet, but I'm very observant. I'm always watching. I'm always taking it. I said, boy, I was just waiting to get my hands on the book. I was like, I hope the rest of the team ain't next to everybody, because I'm sure about to go
me
answer.
too. Look, I've been trying to spit game now. Everybody was kind of getting a collection, so they was buying all of our books. So just because you bought Nice books don't mean
Yeah, that's right. And what's funny is the reason why I really started pushing it is because of feedback I got. I asked one lady, I was like, has somebody offered you the book? And she was like, nah, ain't nobody asked me. And then it just clicked. They're like, oh, they want us to ask.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to ask them.
Yeah.
All they can say is no.
After you. I said, I'm going to get this one. When he comes to the door, he ain't know what. He like, where you going to catch the book? As soon as they come through that door, he got them.
But yeah, man. But yeah, I've been waiting for this book to drop so we can push it out, man. I'm looking forward. I don't know, man. I'm grateful for the opportunity. I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful for Lester for putting this together.
Yes.
I think this is something that can change lives, man. I really do think what we're doing is impactful. It's just not something to say, look what I did, but it's something to say, look, man, this is what's going on.
Yes.
This is the work we're doing, and this is what we're seeing. And like some of the other people that's come on before, it shows you that it's not a one-way approach to talking to these kids, to reaching, to connecting. Like, they're different just like we're different.
Right.
It takes a collective. We need people that's gonna go in and listen, like me. We need people like Ed that's gonna go in and tell them, hey, bro, don't do that. Hey, man, calm down. We need people like Holly that's gonna come in and be that comforter, that whisperer that calms them down, that calms the beast. We need people like Mello that's gonna put them in the music room and do music with them and show them, like, listen, this is a skill and this is a monetary value you're doing. Don't just play in here. Like, be serious about this. We need people like Mike that's gonna help them with expressing their writing and channeling their anger and doing something good with it. And we need people like Lester who shows them, like, listen, I did 22 years in prison, and I'm coming back to DJJ to instill in y'all what I've learned.
Yes.
And not only am I doing that out of the kindness of my heart, humility, but I'm making a business. Like, I'm using what they condemn me for to make my living. I'm profitizing off of my pain.
Exactly.
And you can do the same. You're in DJJ. Listen, learn, take in what you're doing, observe, use this. All of this is going to serve a purpose in your future. You just got to be able to be attentive enough to realize that. And so as we do this, man, I just want us to continue to be mindful and aware, you know what I'm saying, that people are watching.
Yes.
And that God has a purpose on our lives.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah.